Welcome to a very spooky Highgate Cemetery in London. Burial place of many famous people: Lucian Freud, Karl Marx. Karl Marx is in the East Cemetery. This is the West Cemetery. This is the one with the older looking catacombs. So join me as we visit this city of the dead. Highgate Cemetery was one of the earliest privately run garden cemeteries in England. Until the 19th century, most burials had taken place in Anglican churchyards, but by the 1820s these had become so overcrowded and unsanitary that different arrangements were essential. Birth and mortality rates were booming, and the Industrial Revolution led to a massive influx of migration from rural areas to the cities, with London's imperial capital growing rapidly. Census records show that London's population was just under 1 million in 1801, but by 1841 it had doubled to almost 2 million. By 1840, London had a daily death rate of 125 people, representing more than 45,000 people a year. The metropolis was full to the brim both of the living and the dead. This led to public health emergencies as outbreaks of cholera and typhoid began to occur with alarming regularity. London's first major cholera epidemic struck in 1831, with so-called miasma, or poisonous vapours from decomposing bodies, believed to be a contributing factor. To address the rising need for burials, Highgate Cemetery was the flagship project of the London Cemetery Company, established by Act of Parliament in 1836 to build cemeteries north, south and east of London. So here I am outside the Egyptian Avenue. There's a huge obelisk there. The Egyptian Avenue leads to the Circle of Lebanon as the builders try to capture the grandeur of the treatment of the dead in ancient Egypt. So I'm now walking through the Circle of Lebanon, which unsurprisingly goes round in a huge circle, led to by the Egyptian Avenue. Incredibly impressive. The Rossetti grave does not actually contain the remains of the family's most famous member, the artist of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, Dante Gabriel Rossetti. And this is for a fairly macabre reason. Lizzie Siddal, who rose to become the muse and model for several renowned artists of the Brotherhood, including Dante Gabriel Rossetti, is interred here. She was Rossetti's wife and was painted by him on numerous occasions. Siddal died in 1862 after overdosing on laudanum, leaving Rossetti inconsolable. In true tragic artist fashion, he buried a notebook of his own unpublished poetry in her grave. But the notebook and Siddal would not be allowed to rest in peace. Rossetti came to regret burying the book and, 7 years after the interment, he obtained permission from the Home Secretary to exhume the body and retrieve the poems. As if the ghoulish practice was not creepy enough, it was done one autumn night by the light of a huge bonfire. Rossetti did not have the stomach to attend the spectacle himself and waited at home for word of the notebook's retrieval. Dante's father, Gabriele Rossetti, his brother William and sister Christina are all buried with Siddal, but, haunted by thoughts of the exhumation, Dante himself refused to be buried in the plot. He said, "Let me not on any account be buried at Highgate." He got his wish and was buried at Birchington in Kent. One of the more modern graves at Highgate was filled in December 2006. It belongs to Alexander Litvinenko, the former Russian KGB and FSB spy who defected to Britain's MI6. He was famously poisoned by the radioactive substance polonium-210 while eating at a sushi bar in London's Piccadilly. The outrage over this act on UK soil continues to this day in the rock-bottom diplomatic relations between Russia and the UK. So I'm now in the East Cemetery, which has some more modern graves, some old ones too, including the one I'm just about to visit now. And it's this one, it's the instantly recognisable face of the founder of communism, or co-founder at least, with Friedrich Engels, Karl Marx. So he still has plenty of admirers, as we can see. I'm not one of them, if I'm honest, but there's no denying that he was an incredibly significant historical figure, and yeah, not a modest grave. To be fair to Marx, the ostentatious memorial was not actually his idea. Probably the most famous grave at Highgate is that of the German philosopher, economist and revolutionary socialist whose work formed the basis of international modern communism. Marx was actually originally buried on the 17th of March 1883 in his wife's grave on a small side path at a simple ceremony attended by only 13 people, including his lifelong friend and co-author Friedrich Engels. In 1954, however, the Communist Party in its wisdom launched the Marx Memorial Fund and, as a result, both bodies were exhumed and the grave was moved to a more prominent location on a main path. 2 years later, a huge bronze bust of Marx sitting on top of a rectangular marble plinth with gilded lettering was erected. The memorial is the work of Lawrence Bradshaw, himself a committed socialist who viewed the commission as a huge honour. His design incorporated the original family headstone into a new pedestal, which features the final line of the 1848 Communist Manifesto, "Workers of all lands, unite." At the bottom of the pedestal are words taken from Marx's 11th thesis on Feuerbach. The philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it. In creating the piece, Bradshaw wanted to go beyond a mere representation of Marx's physical appearance. He said he wanted to express the dynamic force of his intellect, the breadth and vision and power of his personality, along with a feeling of energy and endurance and dedication to purpose. Marx's daughter, Eleanor, 1855 to 98, a trades union supporter, is buried with him. While Marx's Communist Manifesto spoke of a spectre haunting Europe, it seems they were also present in Highgate. Perhaps unsurprisingly for a site with such an otherworldly character, there have been suggestions of paranormal activity at Highgate Cemetery, with robed figures, red-eyed demons and other apparitions being reported down the years. But the most shocking incident was the desecration of graves that took place as part of the Highgate Vampire debacle. On the 31st of October 1968, a group of occultist youngsters gathered at Tottenham Park Cemetery during a spate of vandalism attacks. The paper, the London Evening News, carried a story on the 2nd of November 1968 that the intruders had placed flowers that were left on graves in circular arrangements with arrows pointing to a freshly dug, uncovered grave. In an act of desecration, a coffin was opened and the body was disturbed. A cross-shaped stake was driven through the lid, presumably in a bizarre attempt at destroying a vampire. The group were never caught, but they were also implicated in a series of desecrations in the Highgate Vampire episode. Later, a man called David Farrant, who was an occultist and author, wrote a letter to the Hampstead and Highgate Express that was published on the 6th of February 1970. In it, he claimed that on the 24th of December 1969 he had glimpsed a grey figure, which he believed was a supernatural entity, and asked if others had seen the spectre. On the 13th of February, a number of people replied, describing all manner of ghosts and apparitions that were said to haunt the cemetery or its surroundings. The ghosts' descriptions range from a tall man in a hat, a ghostly cyclist, a woman in white, a face glaring through the bars of a gate, a figure wading into a pond, a pale gliding form, bells ringing, and voices calling. Another man, Sean Manchester, self-proclaimed exorcist and vampire hunter, claimed that the grey figure observed by Farrant was a vampire. There was inevitable media interest, and the story snowballed, with the alleged undead fiend said to have been a vampire king or a practitioner of black magic. A feud ensued between Farrant and Manchester that resulted in so-called magical duels. Things got even stranger when Farrant later claimed to be the head of a group called the Highgate Vampire Society, and in his book The Highgate Vampire, Manchester claimed that he personally tracked a vampire to its lair, where he witnessed it transform into a giant spider. That's it for this video. Don't forget to like, share, and most importantly subscribe, and you can also support the channel on Subscribestar via the link in the description. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.